All right, welcome to The Explainer. Look, if you want to analyze business trends, build amazing products, or just, understand the world we live in, you've got to speak the language of data. And that language is SQL. Today, we're going to boil down the essentials from a fantastic Learn SQL in 15 Minutes series into one super fast explainer. Let's dive in.
Okay, so you might be thinking, hold on a second. My software has all these fancy drag and drop features. Why in the world would I ever need to learn code? And you know what? That is a totally fair question.
Well, here's the secret. Those smart tools are actually just writing SQL for you, kind of behind the scenes. When you learn it yourself, you get to talk directly to the raw data. This means you can filter and shape millions of rows right at the source before your tools even get a look. The result? Your analysis becomes way faster and a whole lot more precise. So let's start with your first job. Think of yourself as a data detective. This is all about using SQL to find the clues hidden inside your data. A detective's main tool is the query. Now, don't let that word intimidate you. A query isn't some kind of mystical code. It's really just a question, a very specific, very structured question that you ask a database. Okay, so let's break down the core of any query. It's really just three simple parts. First, you select the columns you want to see. Second, you tell it from which table that data lives in. And third, you specify where your data has to meet certain conditions. It's just a clear set of instructions. For example, take a look at this. We're telling the database to select the player's name, height, and weight. We want it from the player table, but, and this is key, only where that player's weight is more than 190. Simple, right? It's logical, and it's incredibly powerful. But what happens when your data is scattered all over the place? I mean, you might have player names in one table and their game stats in a totally separate one. That's where a join comes in. A join is the command that lets you connect these different puzzle pieces. You just link them using a piece of info they both share, like a player ID, and boom, they snap together into one complete picture. All right, let's switch hats. We've gone from asking questions to actually building the structures that hold all this data. Let's move into our next role, the data architect. So the most basic structure in any database is a table. You can think of it like a spreadsheet, but it's way more disciplined. Every single column is set up for a specific kind of data, and every row is its own unique record. To actually build one of these, you use the create table command. This is literally the blueprint for your data's new home. You map out every column by name, and most importantly, you define exactly what kind of data is allowed to go in it. And these right here are the most common data types you're going to use. You've got int for whole numbers, decimal for numbers with, you guessed it, a decimal point, varchar for text, and date for, dates. Getting this blueprint right from the beginning is absolutely key to keeping your data clean. So once the house is built, it's time to move everything in. The insert into command is how you do that. It lets you add rows of data one by one, bringing that blueprint to life. Okay, now for a really important point. Real-world data is almost never perfect. It's usually kind of messy and inconsistent. This brings us to our third role, the data craftsman, the person who shapes all that raw material into something clean and reliable. To do this, you use things called functions. Just think of them as a craftsman's toolkit. They let you trim, reshape, and correct your data. You can even create totally new information from what you already have. It's all about making sure everything is consistent. Here's a classic example. Data very often comes in with extra blank spaces at the beginning or end. To a database, consumer, with the spaces, is a completely different thing than consumer without them. The trim function is a super simple tool that just zaps those spaces away, making everything uniform. Or how about a simple typo that's been repeated hundreds of times? A case function lets you set up these if-then rules. So right here, we can just say when the state is Ohio's, then change it to Ohio. It's an incredibly fast way to fix widespread mistakes. So in just a few minutes, we've covered the three foundational pillars of working with data in SQL. Let's do a quick recap of everything. You started out as a data detective, learning how to ask questions with select, from, and where. Then you became a data architect, learning how to build the structures for that data. And finally, you became a data craftsman, learning how to shape raw data into something clean and valuable. You now have the basic blueprint for one of the most in-demand skills in the entire world of data. You know how to ask, how to build, and how to shape. So the only question left is, what stories are waiting inside your data for you to tell?